Thank you so much, Ayo. I don't think I can let that conversation pass by me. Yes, Markwe, I'm with you on this one. Let's find out from the government. Talk to the minister. Have they converted their vehicles yet? I mean, now leadership is by action after all. It's not just by, talking or preaching. So I guess when I see the convoy of the president driving CNG vehicles, I'm going to convert mine. If not, let me follow my leaders. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. And yes, we are doing business here. We'll discuss that food security. Do you know that you have a comparative advantage? Or do you know that your local government area does have what it could produce, sustainably into the basket of food basket of Nigeria? Well, we'll get onto that, but let's start from the global space now with oil prices. It edged up on Friday on the prospect of OPEC Plus continuing output cuts, but the crude benchmarks were headed for the steepest weekly losses in 3 months on demand of uncertainty and easing tensions in the Middle East, which is reducing supply risks. Now, let's have the numbers. I hope we can have the numbers right there. Brent for July, the futures for July, that's what's trading now, rose 0.49% to $84.82 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude for June was also up 0.47% to $79.32. Both benchmarks are on track for weekly losses as investors worried about the prospect of higher for longer interest rates curbing growth in the United States, which is the top global oil consumer, and in other parts of the world. Later on today, Friday, the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics will release its monthly non-farm payroll report with a measure of the strength of the country's job market, and is considered by the Fed when setting interest rates. Higher rates typically weigh on the economy and reduce oil demand. Also today, Friday, energy services firm Baker Hughes is due to release its weekly count of oil and gas rigs, which is an indicator of future crude outputs. Back in Nigeria, let's look at the Naira. See, that's doing its mixed sentiment. Well, a lot of people have said the Naira is trying to find its true value. So we hope that's it. NAFEM, on NAFEM, we saw that the Naira traded at the wake of the holiday. Remember, there was a holiday the day before. Most bids were lower than offer. Hence, there was a lot of demand that did not meet supply. So Naira depreciated on NAFEM, lost 11 Naira 71 kobo to close at 1,402 Naira 67 kobo. That's on NAFEM. On NAFEX, however, there was appreciation. Still, I think that's the second trading appreciation for the week. Gained 13 Naira yesterday, 13 Naira 12 kobo to close the day at 1,383 Naira 74 kobo. And we know that in the BDCs, the parallel market, the Naira has more value at this rate, depending on how you can negotiate. But generally, there's more value on the Naira on the BDCs at this time. And also a bit of good news for Nigeria. In April, Nigeria's private sector witnessed a slight easing on inflationary pressures following steep increases in purchase costs and selling prices in March. So it's not that inflation is reducing, but it's that the rate of increase is reducing. So that's the reduction in inflationary pressure. So as a result, the Purchasing Managers Index, as the PMI, rose marginally 51.1, and that's coming from 51. So it's really slight. It's slight, but it's still an upward movement. That signals a 5th consecutive month of improved business conditions, and this according to latest report by Stanbic IBTC Bank. Factors such as currency fluctuations heavily influence prices, leading to slower growth in purchase prices and output charges, though inflation remains significant. Well, despite a slowdown in inflationary pressure across all sectors covered, it continued to hamper output and new orders, which remained stagnant compared to the previous month, while agriculture and manufacturing sectors experienced notable output growth. Services activity, however, declined, though employee expenses increased modestly. Overall employment remained stable, with some firms reducing staff because of cost pressure. Well, despite these challenges, rising new orders led to modest expansion in PMI and inventory holdings at the start of the second quarter. Meanwhile, sentiment dipped from March, remaining historically low despite expectations of future growth driven by business expansions and higher new order. A bit of corporate earnings now. We know this is the season, been seeing it pouring in. Transcorp has its own out now for the first quarter of 2024. Transcorp Hotels, that is, Transcorp Hotel PLC, has released that unaudited financial statement for the period ended March the 31st, 2024. The company recorded 72% increase in revenue to 13.8 billion naira. That's compared to 8 billion naira reported in Q1. Revenue was up 13.8 billion, 72%. And then also when you look at other part, profit before tax was up 568%, as amounting to 6 billion compared to 911.6 million during the same period last year. Profit after tax grew by 844% year on year compared to 5 billion compared to 531 million naira in the same period of last year. Occupancy grew by 82% first quarter of this year from 75 same time last year, and the director and chief executive officer Dupe Olushola believes that this is a demonstration of the company's commitment to excellence and superior performance with leveraged opportunities across segments for continuous growth. You're welcome back. So now let's have that conversation and find out perhaps you do have something at your backyard that you have not been using. So we have the president of Agro-industrial Entrepreneurs of Nigeria, Mr. Chukwu Nwachukwu, joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Nwachukwu, good morning and thank you for your time.
Again.
Mr. Chukwu, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Good morning. Welcome to the studio. So I know you've been at this for a while, trying to promote the fact that every region, every local government has at least one crop to contribute to food security in the country. What's your level of findings now? What's your level, or what's the updates at this time?
Well, you know, in this country, it's known for delay. But what we're trying to do is to aggregate all the necessary stakeholders together. Thus far, we've made tremendous progress. We've been in touch with a development finance institution, has shown a great deal of interest. We're also in touch with the Deposit Money Bank. They showed a lot of interest. So we're moving forward, having aggregated the funds that would be utilized to fund these agropreneurs together. And once we've done that, I believe later on this year it will take off. What is happening in our country is that we create budgets and try to run business-related issues through government funding. It's not going to work. I've told you that before. Government cannot create employment. Employment must be private sector driven.
So in your interaction, you know, with community members, different communities, and all of that, what has been the perception of the individuals in those areas?
Oh, I can't hear you there. Sorry. I lost you there.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, so I was asking of you the reaction of the community members in the different areas, you know, that these crops are domiciled and you're trying to galvanize the support. What has been their perception so far?
Excited. There's excitement. There's serious excitement. are waiting for this program to take off. We're just trying to put all the indices together. We're going to have a financial model that actually works, and we need to bring this money into them at single-digit rate. We had meetings with a great organization, Development Bank of Nigeria. I think they'll be on board. We're also talking with some other deposit money banks. It's a huge program, which would initially put about 60,000 agropreneurs as a pilot project, meaning that we're going to select 2 states per zone, and then 12 states, average of 20 people, 20 local governments. And if we put 250 people in a cluster, we're looking at 60,000. But at maturity, we're going to have about 1,000 people per local government. And we've emphasized that it is such a massive job creation program. If you put 774 local government, put 1,000 people per local government, we're looking at 774,000 people. And the job creation aspect of it is close to 10 million jobs. And when you look at those food items or the produce, we're looking at creating for local consumption. We're also looking at creating for industrialization, which is a topic you're talking about. We're also looking to create it for export. So the excitement is there. We're just putting together the papers now with our team and some consultants. And then we hope the presidency will be there. It goes to what the president is looking for, which is food security. And you can imagine when we produce all this food in the country, to reduce the pressure on the Naira. And, I think that with that kind of production, exchange rate will stabilize and there'll be food in the country.
So help us to understand or paint the picture of how you hope this will work, and what areas will be involved in the pilot. I'm sure you're not working with the whole 774 local government areas in the pilot stage. So tell us which areas, which crops, and then how exactly you hope it will work.
Okay, the crops, initial crops, there's a gap between, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Chikwe. I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Okay. If I can get what deduce from what you were saying, the initial crops we're targeting, the initial crops we're targeting will be cassava, it will be tomatoes, it will be maize, it will be the soybean, it will be ginger, it will be wheat. We're looking at crops that can turn over within a 1 year, 1.5 year gestation period. And the crucial part of what we're doing is that we're looking at creating employers of labor, agripreneurs. These are entrepreneurs who would in turn create employment, So when we look at this economy, these are necessary items that we need both for domestic consumption and also to power the industrial takeoff of the comatose industries. And there's a lot of industries there. Now, the secondary nature of what we're doing is that we're going to create raw materials for further processing, creating further employment at the secondary level. This program will take off. It's not dependent on government, but government to buy into it. It's dependent on what the development finance institutions create, and they fully collateralized. The government just made the pronouncement. They put 200 billion into SME. With due respect, that's just money for the boys, as usual. And the people who might be implementing them are just going to be, contracts given mindset, and that never works. It never works. The only intervention agency that the government has created thus far is the National Agricultural Development Fund. which I think it will do, if they partner with the private sector that we're trying to partner with them, then we can advance the prospect of creating that food security and creating employment at the same time. Other than that, if they get it right, I believe they have a good team there. They get it right with us, we're going to be able to do it together.
So how do you intend for this to work? Do you approach farmers in these different local government areas? Or do you fund them, or do you work with them? How exactly do you see it working?
Well, that's why we're turning. Can hear you. But if I heard you correctly, asking how we intend for it to work. We're going to create this 774,000 people, or like their target at maturity will be about 1 million people. Okay? Those are entrepreneurs. We call them agripreneurs. They become employers of labor. And they will produce for profit. Every business is profit driven. So we are selecting them. They're rushing to us now, to be part of the program. So we'll create microcredit. It's a process of microcredit delivery, where we create microcredit for each person. Each person becomes his own obligor. So he knows he's producing for profit. A few years ago, when I consulted for a state government, Abia state government, on a 1 billion Naira fund, I subjected them to a process of entrepreneurial training. And very funny though, each time I asked them during the training, how many of you here are businessmen and women? Nobody raised his hand. Then I'll ask them, how many of you are farmers? And everybody will raise their hands. So the underlying factor, which I'm telling you now, which I'm telling them too, which I told them, was that all of you are businessmen and women whose business is farming. So you not take like 1 million people, and you put through the value chain, they have up to maybe 10 people plus themselves. We're creating almost 10 million jobs. And each of these people being employed are paid wages. When you have paid somebody wages, the effect of wage is that it triggers a demand in the economy. A demand in the economy must trigger consequential supply. And that is the macro mix that will create wealth in the economy. So we're creating food, we're creating employment, and we're creating the source for foreign exchange earnings.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuachiku, President.
And by the way, you know that we're going to be partnering with you, so you'll be part of. We're proposing right now a national seminar.
Okay,
for all those people to come in.
You're sending your proposal on air. Thank you so much. Acknowledge, Mr. Wachiku. Thank you so much. President of Agro-industrial Entrepreneurs of Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Ini.
All right, well, I think that's a first for me, getting a proposal, an invitation on air has been there, but proposal for an event. All right, let's move to the market now. Just before we get out of time, the NGX is back on the positive trend, and we hope that's sustained. We'll know by the close of trade today, but yesterday, the all-share index was up 0.55%. at 98,762.78. Equities cap, 303 billion naira was added to the market cap at the close of trade yesterday. 55.85 trillion naira is what the market closed with. And we see that the most liquid counter is back on the move. But let's talk to Mr. Abdulrasheed Momo and see if we can expect this to continue, or if it's just one of those excitement that goes away before you know it. Mr. Abdulrasheed Momo, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, and how are you?
Yeah, so we saw a positive close before the holiday, and then at the resumption of the holiday on Thursday, we saw another positive close. Are we back on the positive trend, or is this just a dead cat bounce?
I don't use the word dead cat bounce. Reports, April was not a good month at all. For the past 3 months, the market has been oscillating within about 98,000 points to about 103,000 points. But the month of May, we did see a minor breakdown from the support level, which actually threatened the market. But what I realized that for the past 3 days, I think 3 days or 4 days towards the end of the month, we saw some form of consolidation. We saw increased volumes, buyers buying into the dips and the rest. As it is now, for me, the market, for me, is between a support of 98,000 points and 100,000 points. So we're at 98,000 points now. We hope, for me to see a new trend, the market needs to break 100,000 points first. So as it is now, possibility that perhaps getting to that resistance level might see some people taking profit. But what I can say that we are within a trading band of 98,000 points and 100,000 points. That is the trading range for now for the market.
And we've seen a lot of results. I mean, interesting. We have first quarter results coming in. We just saw that of Transcorp Hotel this morning, and revenue growth of about 800%. You know, really impressive. But we've also seen some other companies where there's been losses. I think we had Eternal Oil, we've had Access Co, and all of that. We've also seen it's like a mixed bag. Is this affecting the sentiment of investors at this time?
Not really, because the most traded sector now so far has really been the banking sector. Perhaps because we know we're in terms of dividend payout, yes, UBA has been exceptional for some time, you know, because I think they'll be paying before, I think May 10th. That stock ought to have moved a long time, but I think we saw some strong selling into about around 23 Naira. But for now, as it is, the buyers were able to break that jinx. I don't know how far that stock will go, but what I can say is that we have seen, normally when I speak in terms of what I've been analyzing in terms of charts, market history. What I've noticed that Access Corp, when they marked down at 20 Naira, it dropped about 16 plus. It's trying to recover now. Even the almighty Zenith that paid a dividend of 350 actually lost about 2 Naira. So I hope UBA doesn't follow suit, but it shows that we now ask ourselves, do I actually wait for this dividend or I buy after markdown? You understand? So it's still shaky for now because the NGX Bank was the worst hit last month. We saw huge corrections despite all the good financials that we saw. And as we always say, the market prices in a lot of things, a discounting mechanism. With the Q1 in place, we've seen some from Stanbic, as you said, Transcorp. We are looking good, but we don't know how market is going to feel. But the most important, if the market breaks 100,000 points, then we know that it's a new leg up, because it's the index we now use to determine the next leg up or down. So as long as for now the index is within the trading range of 98,000 to about 100,000 points, if market breaks above the 100,000 points, then we can now say this is a new leg up, if it's a genuine bull trend.
So do you see this trend, this positive trend, as sustainable, or are we going back to the bear zone?
I've told you, it needs to break 100,000 points first. Let it break 100,000 points.
So do you see us breaking the 100,000 now, or are we going to have more setbacks before we go back?
No, if it breaks 100,000 to the upside, then we know there's this current bull trend is a genuine trend. If it doesn't break 100,000 points, then we might be back to about 97,000 points, which you saw in April.
Yeah, we saw that even last week. So, I mean, just before we ask you how you think the market will close, another interesting counter is the oil and gas. That
Yes.
counter is so quiet, even though we saw a bit of recovery this week. We've seen a bit of recovery this week, but it's so quiet. And now we have queues back. We have Dangote. We have stories around Kaduna Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery. This news, aren't they supposed to move the stocks on the exchange?
There's what you see, on that, the oil sector, what you need to know that what is the most liquid stock in the oil and gas sector in terms of volatility? It's only Owando. Owando is the only one that gives volatility. If you look at corn oil moves once in a while. You might see the trend. You might see corn oil hold for about a month, a week before you see market move. You see stocks like let's say even Seplat. You understand? So it's only Owando that is the only stock that is volatile, that is liquid. So most of the movements you see, if Seplat or Corner moves, or even MRS, you see that you hardly see movements in those stocks. It's just once in a while, you see. So all those ones cannot trigger the oil sector. It's mostly Owando that moves all the time, either up or down, that actually affects that sector. Most of the stocks in that sector are not liquid.
Oh, wow. So I wonder what's the fate of those investors in the other stocks, especially MRS that had indicated interest to delist. But thank you so much. That's much we can take, Mr. Abdulrasheed Momo, for your time this morning. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
All right, there'll be more market conversation for you. I decided to be here with a whole load of information and conversation at 1 p.m. That's during Business Incorporated. So please join us for that. For now, we need to head back to the Sunrise Daily Studios.